Hello, friends. This is Anthony from Forest Ghost Conversations. Are you looking to get into the podcast game yourself? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me tell you, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has some tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Then, when hosting on Anchor, you can even distribute your podcast on listening platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And get this, everyone, best of all, Anchor is totally free. Just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Star Wars Special Editions. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms then. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Force Ghost Conversations. And before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming along that wonderful ride that was the Book of Boba Fett. We did so many wonderful breakdowns. We had guests on the show discussing the entire season. It was just completely wizard overall, and I'm very thrilled with all of the outpouring of love and support that we got over the course of the season. And I'm very excited to look back on that as well and move forward with some other things. So we're gonna start this week with tackling a special edition celebration kind of. So we'll get to that on the other side of the news portion here of Force Ghost Conversations. But with that, it's time to dive in to some Cloud City gossip. And boy, was there a lot of Star Wars news this week, ladies and gentlemen. First, I don't know if you've been on the internet or not, but I think you might have seen some pictures, some rumblings about the Galactic Star Cruiser. Well, it sets off next week at Walt Disney World, the Star Wars Hotel, aka the Galactic Star Cruiser, with its first guest passengers. And members of the press were invited for a special sneak preview of the hotel and experience this past week. More details, of course, can be found on StarWars.com. However, I would also recommend checking out the coverage by friend of the show, Dan Zer, who was a part of the press preview event. So go listen to Coffee with Kenobi's 500th episode. Congrats to them on that, first off, to hear his own thoughts on his experience with the Galactic Star Cruiser and also from the perspective of his family as well. So really great stuff. Go check that out. Next, of course, Marvel announced an 8-issue comic book adaptation of the first season of The Mandalorian, with each issue corresponding with the episode that it aired. Right, episode 1 with issue 1, issue 2, episode 2, so on and so forth. The series will be written by Rodney Barnes and illustrated by Georges Gianti. Be sure to pick up the series from your local comic book shop when it hits shelves this June. Additionally, we got a new cover for the upcoming young adult novel, Star Wars Padawan. This book is written by Kirsten White and features a young Obi-Wan during his young Padawan days being trained by Master Qui-Gon Jinn. The cover features a determined young Kenobi ready to protect with his lightsaber. Check out the cover as well as an exclusive interview with the author on StarWars.com. And then finally, 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of the release of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And if you love this movie just like me, this is a really great time to celebrate. And then Lucasfilm is also doing their own celebration in a way with a series of 4 original works of short fiction featuring some of the film's most memorable heroes and villains. and this will come out within the next few issues of the Star Wars Insider magazine. Authors S.T. Benda, Richard Dinnick, George Mann, and Rodney Barnes will pen stories for characters Zam Wesell, General Grievous, Dexter Jettster, and Mace Windu, respectively. The next issue of Star Wars Insider will hit newsstands on March 15th, featuring the first of these stories. And now, that is all that I had for Cloud City Gossip this week. So we'll be back on the other side of this break with our main topic for the day, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Star Wars Special Editions. Okay, everyone, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations, and this is our main topic for today, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Star Wars Special Editions. And it's crazy to think that we've had the Special Editions now longer than we had, to that point, the original release of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. I guess just then, that would be Star Wars to those at home, if you saw it in the theater in 1977, of course. So it's just this is a very interesting time for Star Wars. I mean, of course, the special editions was the re-release of the original trilogy in theaters for the 20th anniversary in 1997. And these took place over January, February, and March of 97. And it was meant to get Star Wars back in the zeitgeist, back into the lexicon, back into the thinking, because it was a dark time for people. I mean, come on, like, if you were a fan and Return of the Jedi comes out in '83, there's nothing but some books, comics, some Ewok movies, and the Droids TV series and the Ewok cartoon. There isn't not a whole lot, not a whole lot. A couple video games here and there, some books, but in terms of like things that really get the attention of people, there's nothing much until the special editions and the and eventually the release of the Phantom Menace in 1999. So this is a way to get people back into it. I mean, there's a whole generation at that point that had not seen Star Wars the way it was meant to be seen, which I firmly believe that Star Wars is meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible. That's what it was made for. It was made for that theatrical experience that is meant to make us feel like we're a part of the rebellion in its own right, be a part of this mythical morality adventure that Luke Skywalker and his friends are on, and put ourselves in that situation. And frankly, the bigger the screen, the better it is to experience that in its own right. And you either watched it on TV, your bootleg VHS copy that you taped from when it was on ABC or something like that on a Sunday night, or whatever the movie of the week time slot was, with the commercial breaks on it. I know there are a lot of Star Wars fans that know when the commercial breaks are in the original trilogy when they watched it on TV, so they could fast forward through it. Or, I mean, you bought your own VHS copy. I mean, there were, of course, the 85, the 92, I believe, and the 95 releases of the original trilogy up to that point on VHS and Laserdisc, too, if you were really into that kind of technology. But I don't know if there's really been a wide release of this kind before this point. I mean, of course, like, yeah, they really released films in theaters all the time back then, but like to have this kind of hype and nostalgia for something so long ago, plus all the new stuff that we're going to talk about too. That's a very impactful thing here. So I think it's a really unique time for Star Wars in its own right. I think there's been a lot of times since the special editions came out that, of course, they were knocked at the time for a lot of things. Of course, this is George's main tinkering or tampering, depending on your point of view, so to speak, with the product that is the Star Wars original trilogy. And this is something that George would do consistently again with the 2004 DVD release, the 2011 Blu-ray release, the 4K release even has that little McClunky nod in there. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the those changes, of course, and I actually really love these changes. I've come to really accept them and love them. Frankly, the special editions are my Star Wars. I would actually honestly say more specifically, the 2004 DVD release is my Star Wars, and we might have to do a specific um episode, so to speak, on those that box set in its own right. I think there's a lot to discuss there. There's a lot of great behind the scenes features and things like that, and I've really though that is really my Star Wars in a sense. So we won't be talking about Hayden Christensen popping up at the end of the Return of the Jedi here, at least in this episode for this point in time. But again, this is Star Wars back on the big screen with newly enhanced digital effects for the era, right? Jurassic Park came out 93. T2 came out in 91. There's been lots of leaps and bounds forward in terms of digital effects, sound, what can be done in terms of computer generated cinema. And George he will tell you to his dying day and even beyond that he was not super thrilled with the product that was the Star Wars. He was constrained by the technology and budget and studio mandates of the time, right? So, he had to do what he had to do at the time. And I respect the fact that he goes back and he adds these things to make it more his vision for what the final product of the movie should be, and I frankly respect that. At the end of the day, he's the creator. He is the person behind the scenes making this happen. It's his bottom line that he's paying for it mostly. So Lucasfilm is fronting the bill for this, and frankly, that's these. This is a really fascinating. Again, I'm very intrigued by the psychology of it all, the psychosis, um, and if you're a fan of the unaltered editions, whatever, if you're that type of person that says this is what ruined Star Wars for me, and then you still have those VHSs. You have it's not like you can't go out and purchase unaltered versions at all. Like you go get the DVD releases in 2005 or 6 or something like that had the Laserdisc scan on a separate disc of what was released in 95. So, go get those. I'm not going to encourage you all to download or seek out the I believe it's the Harmies or the Harbies, something like that, despecialized editions. I know there's a Project 4K 77 or something like that for Blu-ray and 4K editions and transfers of those original movies because technically those are legal. So definitely seek out legal means to do so. But there are ways around there to go get the quote unquote the original Star Wars if that's your thing. But to me, this is my Star Wars. This is my real big introduction to it. I was in the theater at the age of 2 seeing these films in the cinema, but I honestly have no recollection of it whatsoever. So don't ask me what I remember of it. I just have faint glimpses and memories of it all, but there's really nothing at the heart of it all that has lingered with me. My uncle took me because it was kind of the thing you did. And he loves Star Wars, and you know, not necessarily for me. In terms of memories, right? I don't remember a thing, and then it's basically once the Phantom Menace came around, that's where the memories start to formally, so to speak. But again, it's a Star Wars back on the big screen. And I love this, like, that little trailer tease that they did in order to get people hyped up for, where they have the little TV box and they're like, and for many a generation, this is how Star Wars was seen on the small screen, right? And then the X-Wings pop out and the sound gets louder and the explosions and you start to see all these wonderful images again that are reminiscent of the original trilogy: Han, Leia, Luke, Vader, C-3PO, Obi-Wan, with the impressive THX sound bristling through the sound speakers. I love that trailer, frankly. That's a really great piece of marketing there, at least for me, which I think is their core audience that they're targeting here. So I would really recommend go checking out that trailer. You just look up the special edition trailer on YouTube or something, I guess, for Star Wars, and it'll pop up again, of course. And I just wish I could have been a part, like, more I wish I could have just had more of like a memory of this era. Because of course, just the action figures came back and people were getting more blockbusting. And then, frankly, I think it's also important to note that these films came out for the re-release in January, February, and then March again. And excuse me, this was a time where people didn't really go out to theaters in the winter months. That was almost unheard of back then. It was the summer blockbuster season, and that was the only time you went to go see movies. So the fact that they were so successful at the time, it's just fascinating to me that this was such a big success. And it just goes to show that Star Wars has always been in fashion, even though it was never technically like at the front of things, right? There was no movies aside from '83, Return of the Jedi, and then the Ewok stuff and books. But then we got to '97, and it's back with a bang, baby. January 31st, A New Hope opened. February 21st, then Empire came back into theaters. Empire Strikes Back, and then they even pushed back Return of the Jedi for a week. It was originally supposed to come out on March 7th, and then they pushed it back to March 14th because they were so successful. If I can reiterate again that wonderful trailer, they had a note in there that at the end it's like it's really rung in my head for a while there. If you listen to the Force Center podcast feed, Ken Navsok talks a lot about that line at the end. It also rings true for me again. See it again for the first time. I love that. I love that. I love the dictation in the trailer narrator's voice. Again, and it frankly it was true. You're seeing Star Wars in a way that you hadn't seen it for almost 15 years at that point, right? It'll be 97, 14 years, yeah. And for many, that was how they did it. And if you didn't get to see it when it was in the run, and then you became a fan over that time period, you got to go see it again. Plus all the new stuff, the changes, the additions, the slight edits, the things that were cut, right? Like it's a whole new product and experience that doesn't really change what Star Wars is. I think at the core, all the things that are the themes and the ideas of it all are still there, 100%. That's not like a completely different movie. It's just that experience. The experience of Star Wars is what we're talking about here. At the end of the day, with the release of this new updated version, it made 472 million globally. That is not a small chunk of change for a film that was 14 years old at that point. At least when you get to, if you're talking from Return of the Jedi to the release of the special editions. With inflation today in 2022, that is over $826 million. That's impressive. Really impressive stuff there. That's, again, if you're a film were to make, especially in the last year and a half with COVID, if a film were to make 826 million, over exceeded expectations at this point. If a film makes 200 million, it's considered a success at this point globally, based off of the current model. So this is nothing to sit on. This is Star Wars is back with a bang. It got people excited for the release of the Phantom Menace. That was just 2 years away. So I think that was a really great marketing scheme on Lucasfilm's point. It got people to purchase the new VHSs, the laser discs, the DVDs, what have you. Like when eventually this came out, like it got people buying the physical media again. I believe there was the CD updates that came out, with the new John Williams scores, or they expanded, I guess, the scores with the different sounds that were not available in the original vinyl and the cassette tape releases back in the day. So this is all in all a big success for Lucasfilm overall. And I would also want to mention that with the addition of the digital effects, right? This is to again get audiences ready for the Phantom Menace too, and to have more connective tissue between those in terms of what you would expect. Because honestly, they are going to be very CG heavy and inspired. Because George Lucas will literally usher in the age of the digital cinema, and this is what he was able to accomplish in order to get that done. So if you saw all the practical effects and things like that of the original trilogy, it might be a little jarring. And I get exactly what they did here, and I know that CG, of course, always looks is dated to a time and place, and if as long as you have that in your mind, it's going to be okay at the end of the day. So with the remaining portion of this episode, I wanted to celebrate some of the changes that I really have come to love throughout the course of my watchings of the special edition. And again, I want to caveat that this is only for things that were changed in the 1997 releases. Anything 2004, I'm looking at you, Hayden. 2011, I'm looking at you, the Darth Vader no. Um, when he throws the Emperor down the Death Star shaft, whatever you want to call it. And even the 4K release, I'm looking at you, McClunky. Those are not going to be talked about here. So we're gonna we're gonna discuss the things that, or at least I'm going to share the things that are very pivotal and important to me, uh, and why. I'm gonna talk to why. So to start, I want to say that the in an episode 4, A New Hope, the fact that when you see the Battle of Yavin, when it shows the X-wings going out there to have this last stand against the Death Star. But when all hope seemed lost and they're doing everything, like it's the last stand of the rebellion at this point. I like the fact that it shows that there are more ships there, and I get the argument that it shows that there are a beleaguered amount of rebels going there, but it shows that they went all out to me. That they weren't just like they had 100 plus X wings and Y wings in their arsenal, and they said, "This is the last stand of the rebellion. We're going to go out in a bang with glory to our cause, or we're going to defeat the Empire under all the great circumstances." I mean, again, are they're going up against a huge space station ball that's the size of a planet, moon, space station. Like it's huge, and I just think that it's just them having all the material and resource like they would, right? They wouldn't be holding back anything at all. This is their last ditch effort or to save the dream, as Saw Gerrera would say in Rogue One. So I really like that addition. I like that it shows the X-Wings kind of in battle formation, ready to go out. I think that's a really, really smart change overall. And then another one, we're gonna jump to Return of the Jedi here, for the next two. I might get some flack for these. No disrespect to Lopty Neck. I love Lopty Neck, but I also love Jedi Rocks. I know. Shout it from the rooftops. Anthony, what are you talking about here? What are you saying? Jedi Rocks is an abomination to Star Wars. No, it is not. No, it is not. It is fun. It is wacky. It is crazy. It is George Lucas and John Williams at their, just having fun. And it's Jabba's palace. We get more time at Jabba's palace. You get to see what all happens. Look, I love Lopty Neck too, but I think Jedi Rocks just fits the tone of the scene more. It just, I think it just matches. It matches. It's a glove that fits perfectly to me. Now you can obviously have your own opinion on this. You can hate it to the hills run red, right? I just I don't see the hate. I don't have an ounce of hate in my body for Jedi Rocks. It is fun. It is fun. It is a show in a gangster's palace, right? Where there's also this subplot happening underneath here, where the Jabba's then slave. I apologize, I forget her name. Is thrown into the Sarlacc, not the Sarlacc pit, but into the Rancor pit. Right? There's all this going on at the same time. Sice Noodles looks like she's getting upset that there's this other side plot going on. Max Rebo, of course, having a good time. Glad we got to see him back in the Book of Boba Fett. Come on now, open your hearts and minds. Maybe you'll think differently about Jedi Rocks. Again, no disrespect to Loptinek. I I'm a big fan of Loptinek. Listen to it all the time. Hey, if you want to, pull it up on YouTube. You can find the scene pretty easily. Just search Loptinek, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, and it'll be there. But I think Jedi Rocks is great. I like it. Love it a lot. The next change that I really appreciate from the 97 release, again, might get a little flack for this, but I think Victory Celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi is phenomenal. It might be one of the best John Williams pieces ever, and it's just really been a song that has just shown the sacrifice of what it meant to be a part of the rebellion, the lives lost along the way, the journey that they had. I feel like it just sums up the trilogy well. New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. Victory Celebration is the culmination of all of that. It's that final breath that they take where they say, we defeated the Empire, we defeated evil, good and hope remains. Let's celebrate. Nothing against Yub Nub. Nothing against the Ewok celebration. Nothing against that. I love Yub Nub too. Sometimes I watch Yub Nub just to experience it for again. But Victory Celebration, like I said, is the icing on top for what it would be the culmination of this saga. And even then, when you add episodes 1, 2, and 3 later on, I would argue that having Victory Celebration at the end is much better than Yub Nub at the end. Yub Nub is very fun. It is very of the time. I think when you create a saga and you're closing out the saga at the time, 1 through 6 was the end of the Star Wars saga. Victory Celebration is what is needed for tone wise, for the story, for the characters. It just makes absolute sense, and I love that. Even in the '97 release, you get the images of Coruscant, I believe, Cloud City, and first time you get Coruscant and a live action, right? You see them toppling the Emperor's statue. Which of course gets expanded upon later on when there's more to be had. So I think Naboo is added. There might be Tatooine in the '97 release too. But that's just a better way to end the saga at that point. My opinion, of course. You might come back at me and say Yub Nub is the absolute way to end Star Wars. Never change it. All right, that's fine. That's fine. There's certainly methods out there by which you can find that makes that so for you. And then finally, we're gonna get to this, ladies and gentlemen. This is my I'm gonna open up the can of worms here. If you thought I was stirring the pot with Jedi Rocks and Victory Celebration, I think the Greedo scene, the if you want to call it a change, I think there's an argument to be had there. I've dissected the original scene. If you think that Greedo shooting first is detrimental to Han's character, I ask you to think again. Right? If you think that changes Star Wars overall to you, I'm going to also offer an alternative perspective here. If you were to watch the original scene, the way it plays out in the 90s in 1977, it just shows Han shooting Greedo, right? It doesn't show the wide shot of Greedo shooting first and then Han. Again, you can point out the side head thing and whatnot. Again, I get it. I get it. That it may not look great. The CG has its limitations at the time, of course, and they've updated it sequentially through later releases to basically take out some frames to make it look less jarring and awkward. I get it. But now that we have Solo, a Star Wars story, I think the scene really has a lot more weight and gravitas to it than what we would have known going into 97. So George was very adamant about the change as to why, or the addition of the knowledge that Greedo also shot. In George's mind, Han was like a John Wayne archetypal character. And he didn't want him to be shooting down this character in cold blood. Again, that's George's perspective. That's his opinion. That's his reasoning for doing it. I entirely respect that. But what did Han learn in Solo, a Star Wars story? We learn that Han is a survivor. Han is going to do absolutely what is necessary in order to survive. And if that means shooting down Greedo because he's making threats there on Jabba's behalf, then so be it. If that means smuggling in order to make ends meet and live at the end of the day and have food in your belly, so be it. If that means making an alliance with a Wookiee while you're in a cage situation, basically in a little jail on Mimbom, then so be it. If that means getting fake married so that you can escape out of a dicey situation with Sana Starros, then so be it. Right? That is Han in a nutshell. That's why it makes it so impactful when he comes back at the end of the day, because he was doing the survivor thing in A New Hope. When he gets his money, he bounces and he says, "I'm going. I gotta pay Jabba. I got some other things to do. I'm not getting caught up in this." But then he comes back, and that's very, very important. He comes back. Han is the good guy, as Kira mentioned. He's the good guy. He cannot stand by idly when he does see instances of injustice, and uh, that is Han to a core. I firmly believe that. But what Han learns when he shoots uh, Beckett at the end of Solo Star Wars story is the survivalist mentality. He Beckett was willing and ready to gun him down there, and if Han didn't shoot first in that situation, he was gonna right like that was gonna be the end of him. Now, follow me if you will to the Greedo situation in A New Hope. I frankly don't think ever that Greedo was ever going to shoot Han there. In my opinion, he was always going to shoot to the right. He was going to like have a flyby just to scare him, right? It was going to be a shot that went right past his ear, and then walk away from that play from the that infamous section of Chalmun's Cantina. I firmly believe that. I think he was just coming in there to tell his message, say it, tell him that Jabba's, he's not happy with him. You dropped another cargo load. Get the message across that he's not pleased with him, and then shoot him. Or not shoot him, but shoot, beside him, right? Like it was a fear tactic, in my opinion. And I don't think, again, in my opinion, I don't think that Greedo was ever going to gun down Han in that scenario. Han, however, is a survivor at the end of the day. I've already talked through why I think so and what it means to be a survivor to him. And in this case, he had a guy that was blatantly making threats in front of him, had a gun out on the table, a blaster, I should say, apologies. And then Han is doing the sneaky thing of pulling it out holster by his leg. And then he's going to gun him down there. I think it might have been a reaction, frankly, to Greedo's shooting. But that's just Han in a nutshell. He is a survivor. He's going to do what he needs to do in order to get by. He's feeling threatened at this point, and he is surviving. Which is interesting when you think about it, because it's almost darker in a way than what any perspective was before, right? Just something to think about. I really appreciate that scene. I think it adds to Han's. I don't think it changes anything about Han. I think it's even there. It's all there. It's even keel. It's darker than it was before, frankly, to me. So if you're looking for a character that's still dark survivalist, right? I think it's all there for you. All there. And it doesn't negate anything that happens in Solo Star Wars story, and it doesn't negate anything that happens over the course of the 1977 version, the 97 version, the 2004, 11, and subsequent 4K releases in 2020, 21, whatever the Disney Plus 4K releases are. Technically 19 if you want to go that early. I think that is a very impactful and powerful scene. I get what George was doing. I like my own headcanon there too when it adds to it. And this is the importance of Star Wars overall, is that your headcanon can be super important, but it's also relevant to look at all perspectives, speculate responsibly, and make informed decisions for yourself. And look at what it means for the character overall, and how it influences the Star Wars themes and the soup of it all in the end of the day. So with that, everybody, this is my celebration of the Star Wars Special Edition re-releases in 1997. Were you there in the theaters in 97? I would love to hear your perspectives. I'm going to put out some feelers on the social media channels. Be sure to follow us: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I would love to know what your thoughts are. What were your feelings on and in the theater that day? Have they changed since? I would love to know it. And this is, I believe, the point of this podcast, where we can have these safe, wonderful conversations that delve deep into the Star Wars galaxy and the lexicon and the fabric of what it means overall. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. We'll be back next week with a new episode discussing all the fun things that are going around in the Star Wars galaxy. Until then, may the Force be with you.